Have you ever wondered why the people who tried to break you seem so unsettled when you start glowing again? Why their silence grows heavier the stronger you become? It's not just karma. It's not just poetic justice. It's something deeper, psychological, spiritual, and powerful. It's the mirror effect. See, most of us are taught that when someone betrays us, when they lie, manipulate, or abandon us, the only logical outcome is destruction, collapse, bitterness. But what if that's a lie? What if the greatest misconception we've been sold is that cruelty defines your fate? What if the betrayal wasn't your ending, but your awakening? Right now, you might be carrying wounds that feel unbearable. Maybe someone tried to shatter your name, your dignity, your very soul. And you're wondering, why did they do it? Was I too soft? Did I deserve this? But here's a truth most people never hear. They didn't do it because you were weak. They did it because your light made them uncomfortable. Because your loyalty was too real. Because your presence forced them to confront what they lacked. And when they couldn't control you, they tried to destroy you. This isn't just a story of pain. It's a story of rebirth. Of stoic relationships turned inside out. Of resilience born in silence. And here's where things get exciting. Because you're about to discover that your healing, your quiet, composed, grounded healing, isn't just helping you move on. It's changing the story. It's creating a reckoning they never saw coming. This isn't about revenge. It's about evolution. What they sent to kill you didn't just fail, it became their haunting, their burden, their reflection. And your path forward? It's about stepping into a power so refined, so silent, it doesn't have to roar. It just is. Throughout this video, we're going deep. We're peeling back the layers of pain, misjudgment, and resilience. You're going to hear things that sound eerily familiar, because they happened to you. And maybe for the first time, it's all going to make sense. We're not here to relive trauma. We're here to reclaim power. To reveal how the most powerful revenge is not revenge at all, but peace. Stoicism teaches us that pain is not to be avoided, it is to be transformed. So lean in. Stay with me. Because the most powerful part, that's still coming. By the end of this, you won't just understand what happened, you'll understand why. And more importantly, you'll know exactly how to walk away unbothered, unshaken, and unstoppable. Ready? Let's begin. 1. The miscalculation of cruelty. They saw your silence as weakness. They mistook your loyalty for blindness, your kindness for submission. That's the first miscalculation. Not just a simple error, but a complete misunderstanding of your essence. Because people who operate from control, from deceit, from manipulation, often build their confidence on illusions. They believe if they spin enough lies, if they orchestrate betrayal in a way that makes them appear like the victim, they've won. But what they never calculate is your depth. Your ability to endure, to process pain without self-destruction. And this is where Stoicism offers us a lens that cuts through the noise. A Stoic understands that external circumstances do not define inner virtue. So while they launched their attack, assuming you'd crumble, fall apart, beg, or retaliate, what you did was far more dangerous to them. You endured. Quietly. With dignity. And that's where the psychological dissonance begins. They acted out of a place of superiority. But superiority without morality is delusion. So they built a narrative in which you were the fragile one. And yet here you are, not just surviving, but learning, observing, reflecting. You didn't break. And that is terrifying to someone who defines power by how well they can dismantle others. Let me ask you something. How many times did you stay silent, not because you didn't have words, but because you knew your peace was more powerful than their chaos? How many times did you feel the sting of their actions and choose not to act out of pettiness, but out of principle? They thought you were playing checkers. But you were building an entire inner fortress. One where your mind, your soul, your peace could not be touched. That is the greatest mistake people make when they target someone who practices truth. They see the lack of reaction and assume submission. But what if the truth is you were calculating? Not revenge. Not manipulation, but growth. The internal sharpening of boundaries. The cold, honest assessment of who deserves proximity to your life. That's not weakness. That's power unadorned. And it's the kind of power people can't understand when they are used to controlling others through noise. Do you feel it now? That slow rising in your chest when you realize what they thought would destroy you is actually what defined your awakening. They misjudged your silence. But that's not your fault. It's their lens that's broken. They live in a world where drama equals strength, where the loudest one wins, where visibility is mistaken for virtue. But you chose a different battlefield. One ruled by stillness, clarity, patience. And when they saw you not responding, they felt victorious. But slowly, day by day, the echo of their actions began to settle. And what they once called strength, in themselves turned out to be just noise masking their fear. Because here's the thing, guilt doesn't need a witness to exist. It grows in silence. It rots from within. And the longer you remained grounded, composed, living with integrity, the more their own conscience began to whisper. Not in front of others, but in the dark. In moments they thought were quiet. In dreams they can't explain. That's the reckoning they didn't prepare for. What they sent to kill you, shame, lies, exile, rumors, didn't stick. Instead, it became the mirror. Not for you, but for them. And here's a hard truth. People don't fear your healing because it's beautiful. They fear it because it proves they were wrong about you. That they never truly had power over you. That all their efforts to shape your identity through harm backfired. And now every step you take in peace is a reminder to them of the war they created and lost. In Stoic Relationships, this is the paradox. The one who suffers with grace ends up being the most powerful person in the room. Not through dominance, but through presence. Through composure. Through the refusal to bend one's soul to another's dysfunction. You never needed to scream. Your existence is the loudest message. You never needed revenge. Your clarity is the reckoning. Think about that. Let it sink in. Every time they act like nothing happened, it's not strength. It's denial. And denial has an expiration date. You see, the people who try to destroy others usually do so because they see something in you that threatens their illusions. Your light. Your consistency. Your refusal to play games. And when they can't change you, they try to ruin you. But Stoicism tells us, no one can harm your soul without your consent. So what did you do? You closed the door without slamming it. You walked away without screaming. You chose stillness not because you were afraid, but because you were done. That's why they're haunted. Because you didn't collapse. Because you didn't give them the story they were hoping to spin. Because now, without your chaos to distract them, they have to face the only thing left, themselves. And that's what they never expected. So remember this, your survival, your glow, your quiet dignity, that's not just healing. That's power. And to someone who thrives on control, your peace is the ultimate disruption. Welcome to the first step of understanding how Stoic relationships handle betrayal. Not with rage. Not with vengeance. But with a kind of inner clarity that says, I see you. I forgive myself. And I move forward. That's not weakness. That's mastery. And they didn't see it coming. But now, it's all they can see. 2. The power of silent survival. When someone tries to hurt you, they expect noise. They expect retaliation. They expect chaos. What they don't expect, what they are completely unprepared for, is your silence. The kind of silence that doesn't come from confusion or fear, but from clarity, stillness, strength. And in Stoic relationships, that silence becomes your shield. It becomes your strategy. Because when you refuse to react, when you withhold your energy from a battle that was never yours to begin with, you reclaim your power. Think about it. How many people have mistaken your stillness for submission? How many looked at your refusal to engage and assumed you were broken, when in fact, you were becoming unbreakable? That's the paradox of quiet survival. You don't scream your way to healing. You don't explode to prove a point. You simply rise. Gradually. Intentionally. And that rise? It terrifies them. Not because you fought back, but because you didn't have to. Because your peace, your healing, your refusal to collapse under pressure, it all screams louder than anything you could have said. They don't understand it. Most people don't. Because they've been conditioned to believe that strength must be aggressive, that power must be loud. But Stoicism flips that idea on its head. It teaches that true resilience lives in control, in detachment from chaos, in not allowing others to dictate your emotional landscape. So while they were plotting your downfall, what were you doing? You were sitting with your pain, not running from it, not numbing it. You were absorbing every lesson. Every betrayal became a classroom. Every disappointment, a sharpened lens. And while they were watching to see if you'd fall apart, you were rebuilding. Quietly. Secretly. Powerfully. Isn't it ironic? That the same people who believed you were too soft to endure ended up being the ones disturbed by your calm. Because silence is not emptiness, it's echo. And your silence began to echo their own misdeeds. Loudly. They expected screams. Instead, they were met with distance. With space. With the unsettling realization that they no longer have access to you. And that loss, it cuts deeper than confrontation ever could. They lost the ability to manipulate you, to draw energy from your pain. And now, all that's left for them is reflection. Because when the chaos dies down, and there's no one left to blame, no one left to engage, what do they see? Themselves. Their choices. Their emptiness. You took the battlefield away from them. That's what Stoic relationships do. They remove the fight, not out of cowardice, but out of principle. You didn't need to convince them of your worth. You already knew it. And once you stopped explaining yourself, once you stopped reacting, your entire energy shifted. You became untouchable. Not because you're invincible, but because you realized their chaos has nothing to do with your character. And that is the kind of strength people rarely understand, until they feel it. Until they realize you're no longer accessible. No longer available for emotional sparring. No longer caught in the same loops of drama they tried to pull you into. You became free. Not just from them, but from the need to be understood by those who are committed to misunderstanding you. That's the kind of freedom that leaves people speechless. Because now they have to sit with the narrative they wrote, without your participation. They sent you silence to isolate you, and you transformed it into solitude, into reflection, into power. They tried to erase you, and instead, you redefined yourself. That's what haunts them. That's what they see in the quiet moments when no one's around. And they wonder, how did you survive that? How did you stay quiet? How are you still walking, still glowing, still growing when everything they did was designed to destroy you? But that's the essence of silent survival. The most powerful transformation doesn't need an audience. It needs resolve. And you had that in abundance. You used the silence to go deeper. To understand your patterns, your worth, your purpose. You stopped chasing explanations and started building boundaries. That's why they're haunted. Because you weren't supposed to rise. You were supposed to fall apart. But you chose a different path. You didn't become bitter. You became better. Wiser. Sharper. And now, they're stuck with the truth. That your silence wasn't absence, it was evolution. A transformation so thorough, so complete, that it no longer needs to justify itself. Every day you didn't respond, every message you didn't send, every emotional outburst you withheld, that was your power speaking. That was your soul rebuilding itself. And now, that power is undeniable. They feel it. They can't explain it. But they sense the shift. They know they've lost access not just to your presence, but to the influence they once had over you. That's what Stoicism teaches us, that true strength isn't in how loud you roar, it's in how firmly you remain unmoved. And your stillness? It's echoing now. In every room your name is mentioned. In every heart they try to fill with distractions. In every relationship they can't sustain. You didn't have to haunt them. Your peace did it for you. Because when someone tries to break you and you refuse to collapse, you become a mirror. And no one escapes the truth of their reflection. Not forever. So if this speaks to you, if you've been through the fire and chose silence over retaliation, composure over chaos, then take a moment right now, like this video and comment, number 1, if this is hitting home. And if you want more grounded strength, more real conversations about stoicism and healing, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. This journey is just beginning. And so is your rise. 3. The mirror they didn't expect. They never anticipated that your growth, your healing, would become the very thing that reflects back their own failures. It's a powerful and unsettling reality. When you rise quietly, with integrity, you hold up a mirror to those who tried to destroy you. This mirror doesn't shout. It doesn't accuse. It simply exists, revealing the truth that they buried beneath lies and manipulation. Have you noticed how silence often disturbs the guilty far more than confrontation? It's because silence leaves no space for distortion or denial. It demands reflection. When they see you moving forward, calm and composed, thriving despite their actions, that image forces them to look inward. The image of your peace, your steady presence, shatters the narrative they worked so hard to construct, a narrative in which you were the problem, the weak one, the victim to be controlled. But the Stoic perspective reminds us that it's not about controlling others but mastering oneself. Your healing exposed this truth without uttering a single word, and that silence screams louder than any accusation ever could. Think about the people who have hurt you. Did they expect you to become the walking contradiction to their cruelty? Did they expect you to rise so clearly and defiantly without joining their chaos? It's a kind of power few understand because it's quiet and persistent, not flashy or aggressive. When they crafted their lies and twisted the story, they assumed you would retaliate, expose them, engage in battles of words and emotions. But you chose a different path. You chose stoicism, accepting reality as it was, refusing to be consumed by anger or bitterness, and focusing on your own growth instead. This choice unsettles those who thrive on control and deception because it removes the reaction they depend on. Without your response, their story falls apart. The mirror you hold up reveals their true character, not in a way that humiliates, but in a way that demands accountability, something they never expected to face. What does it mean to be haunted by your healing? It means they live with the consequences of their actions in the silence of their own conscience. Every time they witness your progress, every time they see you reclaim your peace and rebuild your life, they are reminded of what they lost. The trust, the loyalty, the integrity that they could not honor. Their attempts to break you only revealed their own weakness. They wanted to shatter your spirit, but what they actually shattered was their own moral facade. This haunting isn't mystical or supernatural, it's deeply psychological. Their mind replays moments of betrayal, the sharp words, the silence weaponized against you, the isolation they tried to impose. And while they might appear unaffected in public, alone with their thoughts, they confront the undeniable truth. You did not break. In fact, your growth has become the indictment they never asked for. It forces them to reckon with the dissonance between who they pretend to be and who they actually are. How often do you think about this invisible confrontation? When you are silent, when you are healing, do you realize that your quiet strength is a kind of justice in itself? Stoicism teaches that justice does not need to be loud or vindictive. It is the natural order that prevails when one remains true to virtue, regardless of external chaos. By refusing to descend into bitterness or revenge, you become the living proof that truth and character endure beyond pain. And that endurance unsettles those who depend on deception and manipulation for their identity. They look at you and see the version of themselves they refuse to acknowledge, the guilt, the shame, the emptiness left by their own actions. Your success, your peace, your refusal to play their game is a constant reflection of what they lost and what they cannot reclaim. They wanted to silence you, but in doing so, they amplified your voice through your presence. They tried to define you by their cruelty, but you redefined yourself by your integrity. This mirror effect is what makes Stoic relationships so profound. They don't collapse under pressure, they don't seek revenge, they don't build walls of bitterness. Instead, they reflect strength through grace, healing through stillness, and power through truth. And that reflection is what haunts the guilty far more than any public exposure or confrontation ever could. Have you experienced moments when your progress was met not with praise but with discomfort from those who once hurt you? That discomfort is the silent acknowledgement of your transformation, the recognition that their narrative no longer holds power over you. It's the psychological karma of Stoicism. The inner reckoning that happens when someone's attempts to destroy another only reveal their own moral decay. So consider this: every day you choose healing over anger, growth over bitterness, peace over chaos, you become the mirror they cannot avoid. Your presence is the unspoken testimony of their failure to break you. And that is a power they cannot silence. That power is your legacy. 4. Healing as the ultimate counterattack. The most profound transformation does not come from confrontation or retaliation, it comes from healing. When someone inflicts pain, betrayal, or manipulation, the natural instinct is to respond with equal force, to defend ourselves with anger or seek revenge. But Stoicism teaches us that true power lies not in the reaction, but in the response. Have you ever paused to ask yourself what happens when you refuse to meet cruelty with cruelty? When you choose instead to embrace your pain and transform it into wisdom and strength? Healing becomes the ultimate counterattack, not because it harms others, but because it restores you to your highest self. This restoration unsettles those who sought to break you more than any loud confrontation ever could. They expected chaos, but you delivered calm. They expected a battle, but you delivered peace. And in doing so, you stripped away their power. You see, in Stoic relationships, pain is not the end of the story, it's the beginning of transformation. The wounds they inflicted were not meant to teach you strength, but inadvertently they did. Each scar, each moment of doubt, became a stepping stone toward your evolution. You asked yourself the hard questions: why did I tolerate this? What boundaries did I neglect? What truth was I avoiding? And from that reflection you rebuilt yourself, not as a victim, but as a victor. Healing is not a quick fix or an act of forgetting. It is a deliberate, ongoing process of reclaiming your dignity and rebuilding your spirit. It requires patience, discipline, and self-awareness, all hallmarks of Stoicism. While they were busy spinning narratives to justify their cruelty, you were busy learning and growing. Your healing wasn't passive, it was active resistance. Every moment you chose peace over bitterness, every day you prioritized growth over grudges, you reclaimed your power. That power is a beacon that shines far beyond personal victory. It disrupts the toxic patterns that allowed their cruelty to exist. It challenges the false narratives of strength that rely on dominance and control. When you heal, you dismantle the very foundation of their influence. Healing forces them to confront the consequences of their actions, not through words, but through the undeniable truth of your transformation. They can no longer gaslight you because your life is the evidence they cannot erase. Your healing exposes their moral failures by contrast. And this exposure is not something they can control or avoid. Have you noticed how their attempts to ignore you or diminish your progress only draw more attention to your resilience? Their denial becomes futile because healing is visible. It's felt. It's lived. And it's impossible to hide. Healing, in this sense, is a quiet revolution. It's the dismantling of their control without engaging in their tactics. It's a refusal to let their actions define your identity or future. It's the slow, steady reclaiming of your narrative through self-respect and integrity. The question then becomes, are you willing to embrace this kind of power? To let healing be your response instead of retaliation? To allow transformation to be your loudest message? Because when you do, you not only free yourself, you unsettle those who thought they had power over you. They watch as you rebuild, not out of their influence, but beyond it. And that is the true reckoning. In Stoicism, healing is also an act of justice. Not the justice of punishment, but the justice of balance restored. When you heal, you restore order to your internal world and disrupt the chaos they attempted to create. You create a space where truth, virtue, and resilience thrive. This space becomes a sanctuary for your growth and a challenge to their illusions. It's the kind of justice that doesn't demand an audience because it exists in the very way you carry yourself. Have you felt this shift in yourself? The growing awareness that your healing is not just for you but is a statement to those who hurt you. That it's a force that changes not just your story, but theirs too. The healing process also cultivates wisdom, the wisdom to recognize who deserves a place in your life and who does not. It sharpens your discernment and strengthens your boundaries, which are essential in Stoic relationships. You no longer allow toxic patterns to repeat because you've learned the lessons pain has taught you. And in doing so, you build a foundation that no betrayal or cruelty can shake. Healing is not passive acceptance. It's the courageous decision to move beyond hurt without becoming bitter or broken. It's the conscious choice to honor your pain while refusing to be enslaved by it. This kind of healing is transformative because it aligns you with your true self and your highest potential. And that transformation is the greatest counterattack anyone can experience. So if you are walking this path, if you are choosing healing over revenge, peace over chaos, growth over grudges, I invite you now to like this video and comment, number 1, if this message resonates with you. Your journey matters, and by engaging here, you become part of a community committed to stoicism and real growth. And don't forget to subscribe for more content that supports your path towards strength, resilience, and freedom. Healing is the power that sets you free and shakes those who underestimated your capacity to rise. Let your transformation speak louder than any battle cry ever could. 5. The weight of unacknowledged guilt. The burden of guilt is often invisible, quietly settling deep within the corners of a person's conscience, growing heavier with every attempt to deny or escape it. Those who tried to break you with betrayal, lies, and cruelty carry this weight in ways most will never see or understand. Outwardly, they may smile, pretend as if nothing happened, or act indifferent. But beneath the surface, the consequences of their actions manifest in subtle, persistent ways. It is the silent torment that follows them, like a shadow they cannot outrun, because guilt, when unacknowledged, does not disappear, it festers. The psychological and emotional cost of harming another, especially someone who offered loyalty and love, is profound. This cost is not always immediate, nor is it always visible, but it accumulates and shapes the person they have become. Have you ever wondered why some people, despite seeming to get away with their wrongdoings, live with a restless unease that nothing external can fix? This is the weight of unacknowledged guilt. They try to justify their cruelty through rationalization, blame shifting, or silence, but deep inside, the truth remains a constant presence. Every lie they told to cover their tracks, every manipulation they used to control the narrative, every act of betrayal meant to undermine you has a cost far beyond what they imagined. They may avoid confrontation, dodge accountability, and build walls of indifference, but those walls can never fully protect them from themselves. In Stoicism, this is a form of internal conflict that gnaws at the soul, a battle not with others but within oneself. When you refuse to retaliate or lash out, you leave them without an enemy to blame, forcing them to turn inward where denial is far more difficult. This inward turning is where the weight grows heavier, where conscience becomes a battlefield. Their nights may be restless, haunted by memories and the echoes of what they did. The very presence of your healing, your transformation, acts as a mirror reflecting what they have lost, not just you, but their own peace of mind. This haunting isn't punishment from the outside, it is the natural consequence of moral dissonance. When actions are not aligned with conscience, suffering is inevitable. And when that suffering is ignored or suppressed, it manifests in ways that damage their identity and well-being. This is the irony of cruelty. In trying to break you, they ultimately break parts of themselves. Have you noticed how people who cause harm often seem disconnected or unstable in their own lives? How they struggle with relationships, experience inner turmoil, or wrestle with an undefined emptiness. These are the cracks formed by unacknowledged guilt. And while they may project confidence or control externally, internally they are haunted. They are haunted not by your survival but by what your survival reveals about them. Every step you take toward healing and peace is a reminder that they failed to destroy what truly matters: your spirit, your integrity, your truth. And that reminder is relentless. It is the echo of the past that no amount of denial can silence. It shows up in fleeting moments: a pang of regret, a flash of shame, a sense of loss that cannot be explained away. This weight follows them because guilt is not a punishment but a message, a call for reckoning and transformation. It asks them to face who they are and what they have done. Unfortunately, not everyone is willing to answer that call. Many choose avoidance, continued denial, or even doubling down on their false narratives. But avoidance does not erase the weight. It only prolongs the suffering and deepens the disconnect from their true selves. Stoicism teaches us that true freedom comes from accepting responsibility and facing reality honestly, no matter how uncomfortable. This acceptance is the path out of guilt's prison and into moral clarity. You, by choosing healing over vengeance, are walking that path yourself. Your growth is not only your liberation but an unspoken invitation to them to confront their own shadows. Even if they refuse, your example remains, a testament to the power of truth and integrity. The burden they carry is invisible to most, but it is felt deeply by those who are haunted by their own conscience. It is a reminder that actions have consequences beyond what is seen or heard. And it is this unseen weight that makes their attempts to break you ultimately futile. Because no matter what they did, no matter how deeply they tried to wound your soul, you chose a different destiny. You chose growth, resilience, and peace. You became a force they cannot control or silence, and that is the true reckoning. Have you ever sensed this weight in those who have hurt you? The discomfort when your name is mentioned, the avoidance of truth, the restlessness beneath their composed facades? That is the invisible burden of unacknowledged guilt. And it is the shadow that follows them, even as they try to walk away from it. Understanding this is part of embracing Stoicism and Stoic relationships, the recognition that pain and betrayal affect more than just the surface. They alter the inner landscapes of all involved, shaping futures in profound ways. But you have the power to rise above this cycle. To heal not just for yourself but as a beacon of what integrity looks like in a world often clouded by deceit and cruelty. Your peace is your power, and that power unsettles those who live in denial. They may never admit it, but they carry the weight of what they tried to destroy. And that weight will follow them long after their actions are forgotten by others, because some truths cannot be buried. They live inside the conscience, shaping the person they become. This is the unseen consequence of cruelty, a profound lesson in the costs of our actions. And it reminds us why the path of healing and truth is not just a personal journey but a moral imperative. You have chosen the difficult but noble way. You have refused to be broken. And that refusal echoes in the silence they cannot escape. It is the legacy of Stoicism: strength through suffering, peace through struggle, and freedom through acceptance. And it is a power that will outlast any attempt to silence or destroy. 6. The unstoppable rise. What they sent to kill you, the betrayal, the lies, the cruelty, did not succeed. Instead, it became the foundation of your unstoppable rise. Have you ever reflected on what it means to rise after being deliberately torn down? To rise not because you ignored the pain, but because you engaged with it, wrestled with it, and transformed it? This kind of rise is not accidental, it is intentional, disciplined, and deeply rooted in Stoicism. It's the essence of turning suffering into strength, chaos into clarity, and darkness into light. When those who tried to destroy you assumed your downfall was imminent, they failed to understand the depths of your resilience. They did not foresee your capacity for endurance, your ability to extract lessons from the worst moments, or your courage to redefine yourself in the aftermath. They thought they had power over your identity, but identity forged in suffering is stronger than any external force. They underestimated your inner fortress. A fortress built not on denial but on acceptance, not on vengeance but on peace, not on chaos but on clarity. This rise you embody is not about proving them wrong through loud declarations or aggressive retaliation. It's about proving it through the quiet, relentless evolution of your character. Every day you choose integrity over bitterness. Every moment you reject despair for hope, you ascend beyond the reach of their cruelty. This ascent shakes the foundations of their false confidence because it reveals their impotence. They aim to shatter your spirit, but you have built something unbreakable. And that unbreakable spirit is not invincible because it never experienced pain, but because it chose not to be defined or defeated by it. In Stoicism, this is the true meaning of power, the mastery of self over circumstance, the cultivation of virtue regardless of external chaos. Your rise is a testament to this mastery. It is the embodiment of resilience, wisdom, and peace converging to create something greater than pain itself. Have you noticed how this kind of transformation unsettles those who live in denial or control? Because your rise does not fit their narrative. It cannot be framed as weakness or failure. It exposes the truth they tried to hide, their inability to break you. Your presence, your calm strength, your unwavering peace are louder than any accusation or rumor they spread. They see it in your eyes, in your posture, in the way you carry yourself through the world. And that sight disturbs them. It disrupts their stories and forces them to confront a reality they ignored, that you survived and thrived without their approval or involvement. This rise is not just personal, it is a spiritual victory. It transcends the moment of pain and reaches into the essence of who you are becoming. It is the proof that suffering, when met with courage and clarity, becomes a catalyst for growth rather than destruction. And it is the ultimate response to betrayal and cruelty, a response that neither screams nor demands attention, but simply is. They cannot stop this rise because it comes from within. It is fed by your choices, your reflections, your commitment to truth and integrity. They tried to silence you, but your evolution is a voice louder than any they could have imagined. In Stoic Relationships, this rise is both shield and sword. It protects you from falling into cycles of bitterness or revenge, while it cuts through illusions of power built on manipulation. You become untouchable not because you are distant or indifferent, but because you are grounded in something far deeper, your own worth and purpose. This grounding is what propels you forward. It fuels your ambitions, your healing, your peace. It allows you to face new challenges without the burden of past wounds dictating your path. And it inspires others to believe in their own capacity to rise. This is the legacy of your journey, the proof that pain does not have to define us, that betrayal does not have to destroy us, and that growth born from adversity is unstoppable. You are living proof that what was meant to kill you became the very thing that made you invincible. So if this resonates with you, if you feel the power of your own rise or the call to begin it, please take a moment to like this video and comment. Number 1. To share your presence here. Join a community dedicated to stoicism, healing, and real strength by subscribing so you won't miss the next step on this journey. Remember, your rise is not just your victory, it is a beacon for anyone who has ever been underestimated or broken. Let your evolution be the loudest message they hear. As we arrive at the end of this journey through pain, resilience, and transformation, it is vital to reflect on the profound truth that runs beneath every moment you've endured and every step you've taken forward. The attempts to break you were never random acts of cruelty, but calculated moves made by those who saw in you something they could not control or comprehend. They targeted what they feared: the purity of your spirit, the strength of your character, the depth of your loyalty. And in doing so, they believed they would extinguish your light. Yet here you stand, whole and radiant, a testament not just to survival, but to transcendence. This is the essence of Stoicism, that the true measure of a person is not found in external circumstances, but in the internal fortress they build through adversity. You were pushed into the fire, not to be consumed, but to be purified and strengthened. Every lie told, every betrayal inflicted, every manipulation aimed at you became the very materials that reconstructed your identity on a foundation far stronger than before. This foundation is built on self-awareness, discipline, and unwavering commitment to your own values, the core pillars of Stoic philosophy. But more than that, it is built on the radical acceptance of what cannot be changed and the courage to act with integrity regardless. The pain was real, and the scars remain, but they do not define you. Instead, they mark the passage of a warrior who has fought not with weapons but with wisdom, not with fury but with calm resolve. This journey through suffering and healing is not linear. It is a spiral that deepens your understanding of yourself and the world. At times, the weight of what was done to you may have threatened to pull you under, but in every moment of choice, you have risen. You refuse to become a victim of circumstance or a puppet to the cruelty of others. You embrace the Stoic ideal that while we cannot always control what happens, we can always control how we respond. This is why what they sent to kill you has not only failed but boomeranged back to haunt them. Because your survival is a mirror that reflects their failure to see your true strength. Your healing is a quiet reckoning that exposes their own moral decay. And your rise is a living testament to the resilience of the human spirit when anchored in virtue. This truth can be uncomfortable to face, not just for them, but sometimes for us as well. It demands honesty and courage to acknowledge that the pain inflicted was unjust and that the path to peace is often solitary and fraught with struggle. Yet, it also offers liberation. When you understand that the chaos and cruelty around you are external disturbances that need not penetrate your inner calm, you reclaim your sovereignty. You step out of the roles they cast for you and into the authentic self that thrives in truth and purpose. This realization changes everything. It transforms the way you view relationships, especially Stoic relationships, where mutual respect, integrity, and endurance create bonds that withstand the tests of time and adversity. It teaches you to discern who deserves your energy and who does not, to set boundaries not out of bitterness but out of self-respect. It shows that healing is not just about recovery but about evolution, becoming a clearer, wiser version of yourself unburdened by the narratives imposed by others. And so, as you move forward, carry with you this sacred knowledge, that your peace is your power. Your silence is your strength. Your growth is your victory. They are haunted not because you sought to punish but because you chose to heal. Not because you retaliated but because you transcended. Their shadow lingers, not as a curse upon you, but as a consequence of their own choices. A reminder that harming another comes at a cost beyond what they imagined. And while you continue to build your life with intention, purpose, and Stoic wisdom, they remain tethered to the past they cannot rewrite. Yet, this is not a story of vengeance but of liberation. It is a call to all who have been wronged to recognize that the greatest power lies not in destroying others but in mastering oneself. In choosing peace over chaos, growth over stagnation, truth over deception. This is the heart of Stoicism and the path you walk. The journey is yours to claim, marked by resilience and quiet dignity. And in that journey, you become a beacon, not only for yourself but for all who witness your unwavering spirit. So hold fast to your truth, nurture your peace, and continue to rise with courage. The road ahead may still hold challenges, but it is paved with the strength born of your scars and the wisdom gleaned from your trials. Remember, what they sent to kill you came back to haunt them because you refused to be broken. You chose to be better, stronger, and more whole. That choice is your legacy, your triumph, and the profound truth that no darkness can ever overshadow your light.